High-end camping equipment today seems built for comfort. But this forgotten soldier method wasn't about comfort, it was about survival. It remains one of those raw, field-tested lessons that separate life from death when temperatures drop below zero. During the brutal winters of World War II, especially across Europe and the Eastern Front, soldiers faced an enemy far deadlier than bullets, the cold. Temperatures plunged well below freezing. Supply lines froze. Winter gear often never arrived. Men were left to face the elements with nothing but greatcoats, thin blankets, and pure determination. In the Ardennes, during the Battle of the Bulge, frostbite crippled more men than enemy fire. On the Eastern Front, the German advance into Russia stalled, not just because of Soviet resistance, but because machinery froze, weapons jammed, and human endurance simply broke under the relentless cold. So, how did the soldiers who survived do it? They didn't rely on fancy gear. They relied on fieldcraft. And one of the most effective techniques came from experience quietly passed between units, the ground bed trick. Here's something few people realize. Most of your body heat in the wild isn't lost to the air. It's stolen by the ground beneath you. Lie directly on frozen soil or snow, and your body becomes a heat source for the earth, draining warmth faster than any icy wind ever could. Soldiers who didn't understand this froze before sunrise. Those who did, those who learned to insulate from below, made it through the night. The principle was brutally simple. Stop conduction. Instead of focusing on layering clothing or piling on more blankets, they built barriers between their bodies and the frozen ground. They'd clear snow, gather materials, branches, straw, pine needles, hay, and pile them up thick about the depth of a hand. On top of this, they'd lie wrapped in greatcoats or ponchos, often huddling close together to share warmth. It was called the ground bed, and in the snow-covered forests of Europe, it saved lives night after night. No one perfected this method like the Finnish troops during the Winter War against the Soviet Union. Facing temperatures below minus 30 degrees Celsius, they had no fancy tents or sleeping bags, just spruce boughs, wool coats, and experience. They built thick beds of layered branches, lined them with evergreen boughs, and used their coats as blankets. It might have looked primitive, but it worked. Their insulation came directly from the land, replaced daily when needed, and it kept them alive through one of the coldest campaigns in modern history. German soldiers later adopted the same method during Operation Barbarossa, when standard-issue blankets proved useless against the Russian winter. The canvas and down sleeping bags of the era were heavy, soaked up moisture, and froze solid overnight if soldiers sweated during the day. The ground bed, by contrast, used renewable materials and weighed nothing. If branches got wet, new ones were cut. If straw was available, it could be replaced daily. The method required no equipment, just understanding. A top-quality sleeping bag might keep you warm today, but it can't beat physics. Heat always moves from warm to cold. If there's no insulation beneath you, even the very best sleeping bag won't stop the ground from pulling that precious warmth away. That's why experienced bushcrafters still say, insulate from the bottom, not the top. World War II soldiers learned this lesson through brutal trial and error. They didn't have synthetic insulation or waterproof shells. Instead, they relied on pine boughs, hay, and a good deal of raw ingenuity. The air trapped between those layers acted like a natural sleeping pad, creating dead air space that prevented heat loss. It wasn't exactly comfortable, but it was efficient. And when the temperature plunged, efficiency meant survival. Even today, this old soldier's trick can honestly save your life in freezing conditions. The process is simple but crucial. Never lie directly on snow. Always clear it down to the soil or pack it firmly to form a base. Then build your foundation with logs, bark, or thick branches, anything that separates you from the frozen earth. Next, layer evergreen boughs or dry grass in alternating directions until the bed feels springy and at least as deep as your hand. Over that, spread straw, leaves, or dry vegetation. Use a poncho or coat as a cover, keeping your inner layers dry. Because, as they say, moisture kills warmth faster than wind. If you're with others, build your beds close together. World War II soldiers discovered that sleeping in clusters pooled body heat, drastically cutting the risk of hypothermia. Sometimes, that closeness meant the difference between waking up and never waking at all. This technique wasn't limited to winter. In damp terrain, a raised bed kept soldiers above water, reducing the risk of trench foot and disease. In desert environments, the same layering helped insulate against scorching sand that stayed hot well into the night. It's a universal principle: control heat transfer, manage moisture, and work with nature instead of against it. The same laws of thermodynamics that applied in 1940 still apply today. Whether you're in snow, swamp, or sand, insulation from the ground remains a fundamental rule of survival. This forgotten World War II survival trick reminds us of something timeless. Technology changes, but nature doesn't. The same physics that governed those bitter European nights still governs your next camping trip. The soldiers who slept warm under branches and grit understood the core truth of survival: insulate from the ground up. Whether you're camping, hiking, or simply fascinated by the resilience of history's toughest fighters, that lesson endures. So the next time someone insists that a sleeping bag is the only way to survive the cold, remember those men who faced freezing nights with nothing but resourcefulness and courage. Their ingenuity outperformed the technology of their time, and even now it holds up. If this story gave you a new appreciation for how soldiers mastered survival in the harshest conditions, make sure to subscribe to The Forgotten Fronts and share this video with others who value real knowledge over gimmicks. Because sometimes the smartest survival tools are the ones buried in history,